Top 5 worst financial decisions that I've made.
About a month ago, without telling my wife, I took out a second mortgage for $50,000 and I put it in XRP.
Bro, you can't even make this shit up.
Okay, so today we're going to be taking a look at another staple on this channel, watching people make bad financial decisions. Whether it's them YOLOing all of their money to try to get rich quick or making mistakes just going through their normal lives. We have a wide variety in this video, so hopefully you could avoid some pitfalls in your lives if you end up in similar situations to what we're about to see. I also have some comments from you guys talking about your bad financial decisions. So if you want to be featured in a future video, leave it in the comments down below. But we're going to kick off this video with something that is very popular in today's climate with all the FOMO and rug pulls in today's world of crypto and meme coins.
Bro, you can't even make this shit up. Just take a lucky guess where I bought at. Just take a lucky guess. I'm thinking that this about to go to the fucking moon. I'm thinking I'm missing out on some shit. How is this even possible? How can you even do this to a chart? How is this even possible? And I missed out on Trump coin, Vine coin, all the other big coins. I'm thinking I'm getting into the next big coin early. I thought wrong. This is how it feels anytime I buy any type of stock, any type of crypto, any type of anything. Am I the only one that goes through this? I'm really surprised I haven't experienced this yet. My whole portfolio gone in one candle.
Because this is not investing anymore, this is just gambling. Because there's article after article, post after post of somebody making $100 million in one day from the new Vine coin that came out or whatever. And if those stories are even true and not just paid for by the people who made these meme coins to pump up their own value and then they rug pull everybody else, there's honestly such a small percentage that you will be one of those people to make that kind of money that there's no point actually doing this. Everybody's in it for the short term, whether it's the meme cryptocurrency or options trading and trying to hit volatile stocks at the perfect moment and make a ton of money. It's just not going to happen. But no matter how many times I talk about it in these videos, it's still something that happens, especially in waves. As soon as we see the market start rallying or Bitcoin goes up, we have a new wave of these people just trying to shill out and make a whole ton of money, and you're going to end up getting screwed. We have a comment from one of you guys that goes well with the next clip. Starting out your marriage with an additional $30K or more in debt is a way to speed run divorce. My wife and I ended up spending more money on our wedding than we wanted, but what we didn't do is take out loans or run up credit cards. Get off social media, stop trying to compete with everybody that don't know you or care about you. And I can almost guarantee that the guy in the next clip will probably end up getting divorced.
About a month ago, without telling my wife, I took out a second mortgage for $50,000 and I put it in XRP. I'm new to crypto. I've only been around the space for about 2 months, and the more I'm learning about crypto, the more I might be regretting my decision. The secrecy and not telling my family is tearing me up. I'm either going to go down in the history books as a genius or an idiot. No in between. The reason I didn't tell her is because the house is entirely in my name, so it's not really her business at the end of the day. But it still feels wrong, and it feels like I'm hedging the future of my marriage and my life in a cryptocurrency, and that's what's kind of a tough pill to swallow for me right now. I really hope this is the mega bull run that everyone talks about. If it falls below $1.50, I might be in some serious trouble.
So basically putting your house up as collateral for your gambling addiction and not telling your wife. What could go wrong? But going along with one of your comments, staying off of social media, you have tons of people posting, this is a great idea, the bull run's gonna happen, even though the volatility, nobody can predict it. Because I guarantee a whole bunch of people jumped in when over the past 3 months, XRP has jumped 250%. Now, one of the big reasons why so much of this started going through the roof was because Trump won the presidency. So all of the cryptocurrency started, I mean, everybody probably saw Bitcoin go over 100,000. And now we have people taking out loans for their houses to hopefully guess XRP still just going to the moon. But just in the past week, it's down 6%, and the past month, it's down 4.5%. All I can really say is you have to get extremely lucky, which is just gambling, not investing at all. And you're taking out loans to place that bet. Just insane. We have another comment from one of you guys. My worst financial decision was buying so much Starbucks while in undergrad. I spent almost $7,700 every year on coffee that doesn't even taste good. I make my own coffee at home now and spent $1,500 a year. When I thought about all the investments I could have had and where I could have been financially, I literally cried. So I know that there's a whole bunch of argument back and forth, you saving and not buying that coffee every day isn't going to make you a millionaire. However, she ended up spending about $21 a day at Starbucks for years. So again, maybe it wouldn't have made her a millionaire, but I'd like to have an extra $7,700 a year. I don't know about you. So this one is a significant chunk. It doesn't look nearly as bad when you cut this into 365 pieces.
Top 5 worst financial decisions that I've made. Number 1, moving out of my parents' house to a very expensive area that I don't even like. Number 2, having a $780 car payment. What in the I do have reasoning. My last car, somebody crashed into me. I had Gap insurance. I put a lot of money down on the car. After all that, I lost whatever money I put down onto the car. So it ticked me off and I was like, I'm putting no money down on this car and paying a lot monthly. Also, that car happens to be a coupe, which is a very compact vehicle if you didn't know. So that leads us into the next one. Number 3, buying a second car and it being a Mini Cooper. So it's like very small. I have 2 cars that I can't fit jack. Number 4, letting a credit card add up and not having a job. So basically I was living at my parents' house, let my credit card add up, and it was only like a little bit because I was like 19, but it was still enough to where I had to get a job, and the first couple paychecks went straight to the credit card. Number 5, paying for college and basically just messing around and not doing jack shit. And meanwhile, I'm very dumb because I'm sitting there paying for it. Meanwhile, like, I'm not putting any effort into anything.
How was he affording this in the first place? He said he didn't have a job and ended up having 2 vehicles at one point, a Mini Cooper and some other coupe, basically just 2 fun cars that you can't do much with, and then just getting into copious amounts of debt and adding on top of it student loans when you weren't taking school that seriously. Just a whole heap of problems that you have before, 21 years old? Do you know how much of a hole you dug yourself in immediately? Even if you do get a really solid, 9 to 5 job once you graduate, you're just behind the 8 ball right away. Another comment from one of you guys, my worst purchase was a boat. Unless you want your whole life to be about boating or that you're insanely rich, never buy a boat. Also, the scamming in the boat business makes the car business look downright wholesome. It could be the nicest looking old grandma and she just cleaned the oil leak up 5 minutes before you got there. I've literally never seen someone buy a boat that didn't have some serious problem that the seller was hiding. So clearly I don't have any knowledge of this. Even if I was insanely rich, I have no interest in boats. If anything, maybe I would rent it out for a weekend if I really wanted to go on the sea, but I'd most likely end up getting seasick, so it wouldn't be a great time. But honestly, I don't think I've ever heard anything really positive about owning a boat at all. It's just one of the worst kinds of money pits, making cars look pretty good. So I mean, if you like it and you like going on the sea and you like fishing, I mean, I understand. It just seems to me like you need to have so much expendable money if you really do want to own one of these boats.
Let me share with you my biggest money mistake so you don't have to make the same one. Because you can afford something doesn't mean you should buy it. A car, a house, a wedding, pretty much anything. I bought a condo in the GTA during the peak of the real estate prices. And trust me, it was the worst financial decision I've ever made so far. I'm not proud of it, but I did fall into the keeping up with the Joneses trap. In the past couple of years, I've started making more money than I've ever made before. Before that, I was a server. And while I made good money as a server, getting pre-approved for a mortgage, on the other hand, was literally impossible. Once I got my government job, owning a place felt like a real possibility. But here's where I went wrong. I always thought renting was such a waste of money. I had this idea, why should I pay someone else's mortgage when I could pay for my own place? Well, I couldn't have been more wrong. What I didn't realize is that owning a home isn't necessarily an investment, especially if you're living in it. Sure, if I were renting it out and the rent covered the costs like mortgage, property taxes, and fees, it could have been a smart move. But that wasn't my situation. Not to mention, at this point in time, it felt like everyone around me owned a home.
I mean, especially in Toronto, man, it seems like it's one of the worst places on the planet to own a piece of property. It is so expensive. It's probably one of the best investments if you bought it 20 years ago, but right now, oh man, it makes places in the US look cheap. So buying at the peak of the market, I mean, must be killing you. But she even admitted it, keeping up with the Joneses. It seemed like all of her friends were owning property, so now she has to, and it just ends up putting way more stress on your life than you actually need. But we have a comment from one of you guys that goes well with the next clip. If someone knocks on your door, don't buy what they are selling.
Tell us your biggest money mistake you've ever made.
Biggest money mistake would have to be the investment in the solar panels.
Oh, what'd you spend on the solar panels?
It's $36,000.
On a loan?
Even. Yeah,
Nothing down.
nothing down.
What's your biggest money mistake?
I would say buying a brand new car.
Ooh, what was it?
It's a 2015 Grand Cherokee.
Brand new Jeep Grand Cherokee. And you took out a loan for this? How
I
big
did.
was the loan?
The full amount.
I think the biggest money mistake was financing a bed.
Ooh, a bed.
Yeah.
How much do you finance?
7,000-8,000. Yeah, so it was.
That thing make you coffee? I mean, what are they putting in that?
There's actually a surprising amount of people who have started financing beds, and I know beds can be extremely expensive. I remember looking up one of those Sleep Number ones where you can make it either firm or soft or like lift up the bed a little bit. Super fancy, super nice, and it was over $10,000 with a whole bunch of configurations. So needless to say, I didn't buy it, but the other woman, another common issue, of course, buying a brand new car, but the first couple with a $36,000 loan with solar panels. And I think a lot of people are starting to realize those door-to-door salesmen trying to sell you the dream of making money, you know, not having to pay your electric bill because you put a couple of panels on your roof. A vast majority of the time, it's not going to be the case. And then you also have a 5-figure loan on top of the mortgage of your house. There's a whole bunch of issues that could add on to that in the future. I've heard even if you sell your house, sometimes there's issues. If you didn't pay off the solar panels, that could be moved on to the next buyer, which means they'll negotiate an even lower price, or maybe they just won't even look at the house at all because they don't want solar panels. Seems like a whole host of issues that I don't want to be a part of at all. Here we have another comment from one of you guys. My worst financial decision was becoming a K-pop collector. I went as far as buying a $200 album, a $120 photo card. I was addicted to the dopamine of buying limited merchandise. I think a lot of people are like that. Must have spent around $10,000 in 6 years. I woke up this year and basically resold everything for pretty low. Unfortunately, at least some of the arguments, sometimes if you really do get that limited merch, in a couple years it could be worth way more money. Unfortunately, that's not what happened in this comment. I maybe made about $2,000 out of what I sold since they were considered unsealed. I rationalized it by saying it was a hobby and it made me happy, but it went to the point I was stressed over completing my collections and it didn't make me happy anymore. And I bet with a lot of my content talking down on overconsumption and not buying things you don't really need, that I would be against collecting or hobbies or anything, and you have to put every single dollar you make in investments for your future. And I'm not trying to be like that. If you do like something and it makes you happy and you're not going into debt for it, by all means, you could purchase whatever you want. But if it starts becoming an obsession and completing the collections, spending even more money because of that, it doesn't really seem like it'd be that fun of a hobby anymore. Like they said, it didn't even make them happy. The next clip is another one where I understand what they're trying to say, but overall, it just doesn't really make sense.
Let's talk about the worst financial advice I've ever heard. Number one is don't invest until you've paid off all your debt. The reason this is first is because of a concept called compound interest, which essentially allows your money to grow on top of itself over time. Basically, if you wait to start investing, let's say 10 years, you could lose out on hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of growth.
Now, this is something that's true. And I mean, if you've watched any financial videos, people have talked about compounding interest since the beginning of time, because it is something that can be very important, especially if you do start off very young in your 20s. However, not paying off your debt just to invest the possible 8-10% that you'd get on average in the market wouldn't offset if you had something like credit card debt, where the interest rate is 20, 30, 35%. So you're not going to offset that debt with the returns yearly on a market. So yeah, you could possibly get more compound interest if you start at 20 years old, but if you're in $10,000 worth of credit card debt, it basically negates all of the profits that you'd potentially make. So I don't know why it's a bad thing to pay off your debt. I mean, the comment section here says the exact same thing. But if you're paying 24% in credit card debt while earning around 4 to 10% in the stock market, that's not good. Not all debt is the same. And there was no response from this creator at all for that. And it kind of piggybacks on to the next clip.
One of the biggest financial mistakes that I made in my 20s. I do not want you to make this like me because I thought I was doing things right. No, I was doing things so wrong. There are people saying you want to have an emergency fund, you want to have savings. So I took that very literally. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have an emergency fund. I'm going to have savings. And I worked so hard. I worked so hard to save up all this money. And guess what I did? I just racked up debt while saving money. I had so much money on high interest credit cards, yet I had so much money in savings. And I was like, good job. You're crushing it. The correct order, I would say, that I have learned now is to, yes, have an emergency fund. That is still very important. Have something where if life throws something crazy your way, you have an emergency fund to fall back on. An emergency fund number is going to look different for everybody based on your expenses. But once you have that emergency fund, pay off your debt. Pay off your debt. Don't just keep racking up more debt while you keep saving more money, because what are you saving that money for? You need to be paying off your debt.
So this could go hand in hand with the investing. Of course, having a little bit of emergency fund and savings is always a good thing. Same thing with beginning investing as early as you possibly can to start getting into that mindset. It'll definitely help you down the road. But if it does become some sort of OCD obsession-like issue where you're just saving all of your money or investing all of your money as you're getting destroyed by credit card interest, everything that you're saving or potential profits from investing is just going to disappear. Another comment from one of you guys: worst I spent money on was flight school. It was very expensive and nearly impossible to make it to the big leagues without going into debt. Luckily, I cut my losses early. If you want to become a pilot, have the military pay for your training and get the free flight hours. So I guess that means this comment was trying to be an airline pilot, and it seems like it's very difficult to do so, especially if you're using your own funds. So if you really did want to do it, it seems like a better deal to join the military instead of just paying completely out of pocket.
You blew through $250,000. You blew through $250,000. This would change everybody's life. You have to get to 100 millionaire status for $250,000 not to matter at that point. This would change everyone's life, from the producer's life to your life to the person on the street to my life. And I've been blessed enough to be pretty darn successful. $250,000 is life changing. You can do so much with that. You know how much I could grow this business with $250,000 just hidden right now?
I was supposed to get more.
I'm glad you didn't, because it would be gone. You're a spoiled brat.
I think I would have kept it.
What? How can you say that? You went through $250,000.
So, I mean, I don't know the exact story with this, but we've probably heard some instance where a relative ends up passing away, has a sizable inheritance for their family, and somebody ends up blowing all of the money immediately as if they're just going to be getting those types of checks all the time, especially with something as sizable as $250,000. Of course, that changed really anybody's life. Right now, with high yield savings accounts, interest rates, if you just put that in the bank, you would get about $800 a month forever. That's still a few bills paid every single month that you never have to deal with, but all that money is just completely gone. Another comment from one of you guys: I'm a financial advisor, and the number of young people I see right now putting anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 on a credit card to go on a trip they can't afford is crazy. I can't afford to travel at this stage in my life, so I don't, and it hasn't killed me yet. It is a lot of that YOLO doom spending mindset. I need to go on this vacation right now. Hopefully I'll just get a good job in the future if I graduate with the degree, and then all this debt will go away. Unfortunately, most of the time that means lifestyle creep will make things even worse, and then they'll add in a Mercedes and a nice apartment with all of that debt that they already had from vacations and future vacations, and it's just a snowball effect that could get even worse.
I have no retirement fund, but I have cash, and I have no real debt. The only debt I have is about $9,000. I took out a 0% interest loan and did some updates on my house.
Sure sounds like real debt to me.
Yeah, that. But other than that, I have no debt.
What kind of cash do you have?
About $200,000.
So we can get that money invested working for you at least. What is your income?
Around like 57.
So I think the problem with this woman is, of course, right off the bat, not having really too much money for retirement. But I think the main issue is not having it invested, because she said she had $200,000 in cash ready to go, but not even in a high yield savings account, let alone safe investments like ETFs. I know some people are even scared about that because, of course, the past 5 years, the stock market has risen so much. It's such an insane bubble right now that everybody's just waiting for it to crash. So people don't want to put their money in and then immediately see it just tank. So I get that concern for many people, but even, again, just having it in a high yield savings account where there's no risk, she could have been making a good amount of money just on the returns every single month, but not having that knowledge and doing so has put her in a way worse situation being 60 years old. So many people are having difficulties retiring right now and starting to invest and do all of that at such an old age. At that stage of your life, I mean, you missed out on so much potential profits.
What's your biggest financial mistake you've ever made?
I tend to pay for a lot of things that I don't have to, just so I don't need to deal with like the repercussions of things. And I don't advise that for anybody.
Can you give an example of what you mean by like the repercussions of that? Like not having to deal with the awkwardness of, say, splitting a bill.
That too. I think it's very Asian not to be confrontational, and I struggle a lot with being confrontational. So 100%, I'll always take the bill. I'll always take like it. Yeah, a lot of it has to do. Yeah, the topic is money. So yeah, I'll always avoid conflict by just paying for it.
And I mean, if you are going out all the time with your friends, maybe going on trips, going out to the bar, going out to eat, not wanting to have any issues could turn into you racking up credit card debt and kind of being a pushover and possibly being taken advantage of by the people you're hanging out with. Something I bet more and more people struggle with every day, especially not being the outspoken type A person. It seems like everybody's an introvert now, so that confrontation will probably be avoided as much as possible and could cost you a ton of money. Another comment from one of you guys: after watching Financial Audit for a while, I have noticed that almost everyone in the worst debt also has pets. They could barely feed and care for themselves, but they also have 2 dogs and a cat. Another issue that I think flies under the radar because it's so normal to have pets, and I don't find anything wrong with having animals. I've had them for my entire life, but even if you go to the shelter and only spend maybe $100 compared to, thousands of dollars for a purebred animal, it's not like that's just the only cost you're ever going to have to dish out for the animal. There's any issues, any of the vet stuff. The food is not cheap either. And then you start adding on multiple animals, a dog, a cat. It's something that people don't realize could rack up very, very quickly and could also put you in a ton of debt.
I really ruined myself financially in my 20s. In my 20s, I really had no concept of personal finance. I thought that my main goal was to increase my salary and I would be okay. Needless to say, I was a bit of a there was a point, I think in my 20s, my savings, it never exceeded around, I would say $12,000 because I would usually spend it and I had no concept, I had no long-term vision of where do I want to be. So long story short is I had savings, my career was going up, I made more money, but my spending also went up. So this is mistake number 2 is lifestyle creep. Mistake number 1 is not actually saving enough money or just keeping my savings at a set amount. So by the time I became 27, I wanted to start my own business because I was tired of corporate America. I want to be free all the time. I actually ended up at 44K in debt, and then from 2019, now I'm in my 30s, right? I spent around 2 years just paying off that debt. So that's mistake number 3, if I'm counting correctly. It's getting into heavy debt.
So if he avoided those first 2 mistakes, not saving enough money and then avoiding the lifestyle creep to drain all the income, he might have actually been able to dodge that $44,000 worth of debt and just used his own money and then lost basically 2 years of his life just paying it back down to be at 0. I know life expectancy is increasing all the time. We all think that we're going to be 100 years old, but losing 2 years of your life, especially if you're in your 20s, could be a huge regret for yourself down the line.
Let's talk the worst financial advice I have ever seen on TikTok. The first one, and I just saw this last night and absolutely died. This creator was telling people that they could start investing with $0 by using credit cards, saying that you could start with one with a 0% promotional rate, meaning you don't pay any interest for 6 months. And she helps people do this all the time. This is criminal. I don't care that the credit card has a promo rate for 6 months. The real interest rate is going to be 20% or more, and you are not making that investing. Anyone talking about making returns over 10% is lying, or they're taking excessive risk, meaning they could lose all of their money or you could lose all of yours. Number 2 is investing into real estate in developing countries and expecting a 50% cash return annually.
Both of these issues 100% sound like some sort of guru class, manipulating people with no financial knowledge. They just have a nice polished look online. They look like they know what they're talking about. They have a whole bunch of money in the background, maybe a Lamborghini or something. And if you just pay for my class or my Discord group for $100 a month, I could teach you to be rich like me. And then trying to get people to invest with 0% interest loans on credit cards could sound like a good deal for the first 6 months until that interest starts rolling in. Oh man, it'll be brutal. But if you see anybody trying to peddle these ridiculous returns, 50% like they said with the real estate overseas, you just have to turn the other way and run, because so many people have made that mistake and lost massive amounts amounts of money. So we're going to finish off this video with kind of a funny one that goes with the guru style of videos. If you see, this is 100% a skit, it's satire, but definitely has that look. So if you see any videos that are actually serious that follow this same format, you have to know it's going to be somebody trying to sell you something, and you're not actually going to make the money that they portray in the video.
When I go to a house party, I always ask the host, how many bedrooms are in your house though? They're like, I don't know, 4 bedrooms? Oh, okay. 4 bedrooms. Legally, you are required by state law to have 9 smoke detectors in that house. That's 9 smoke detectors I can steal batteries from. Yeah, because while you're partying, I'm upstairs profiting. I'm looting your house. I'm unscrewing Philips light bulbs, the LED light bulbs, the really nice ones you can control with your phone. I can unscrew those, and now they're in my pocket. Now they're in my backpack. Now I'm walking out the door. Now I've got $60 potentially to make on Facebook Marketplace when I resell them. I've positioned myself to be in a place to succeed. And I won't go to house parties that are less than 3 bedrooms because it's not worth my time.
This guy really did nail the exact format that I see entire TikTok channels are based off of. Just talking to random kids that look like they're in high school or the beginning of college that have no financial knowledge, but they're smooth talkers and they have the good edits with the nice music in the background, and they just gain a ton of following. But that's all I got for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. YouTube thinks you'll like this video popping up on screen right now, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, and I'll talk to you guys later.